Our keynote speaker today has joked that he got into UW-Madison only because a sleepy admissions officer put his application in the wrong stack. We know better. Jason Gay is creative, clever, wise, and funny, attributes that no doubt jumped out on his application and that today make us very proud to claim him as a Badger. Jason earned a bachelor's degree from UW-Madison in 1992. He majored in political science, but as you'll see, his career has taken him in a number of unexpected and interesting directions. As a journalist, Jason has been a writer and editor for publications ranging from Rolling Stone and GQ to the New York Observer and Vogue. Currently, he is the sports columnist for the Wall Street Journal, where he occasionally, but firmly informs readers that the Badgers are the best athletes in the world and that the Michigan Wolverines must be stopped at any cost for the good of humanity. While Jason can be given to just a bit of hyperbole, it is not an exaggeration to say he is considered by many to be the best sports journalist working today. The Society of Professional Journalists said as much in 2016, naming him Sports Columnist of the Year. Jason also writes a humor column for the review section of the Wall Street Journal, and in 2016, he was a finalist for the Thurber Prize for American Humor for his bestseller, Little Victories. The book is full of rules for living, some hilarious, some heartfelt, but all filtered through Jason's unique worldview. Please join me in giving a warm Badger welcome to Jason Gay.
Thank you very much. If you can indulge me for 1 second. Had to be done. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that kind introduction. Yes, it's true. It's me, J.J. Watt. No, the truth is, my name is indeed Jason Gay, and I am the sports columnist for the Wall Street Journal, which is kind of like being the money and investing columnist for ESPN. You know, when I was first asked to deliver the winter commencement speech to the class of 2019 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, I had the exact same reaction that you had. Why? I mean, there must have been a terrible mistake. There was a giant mix-up. I assume they sent the invitation to the wrong person. I mean, Chancellor Blank, she's very busy. You know, she was probably typing an email. She meant to type in J.J. Watt again and got my name. She typed in Jason, and 8 weeks later, here we are. But I won't lie. Everybody up here has been very cool about covering up for the mistake, pretending they actually meant to do this. You've all been extremely kind, and I'm grateful. But make no mistake, some people are definitely going to get fired for this. I mean, come on, a Wall Street Journal columnist? You know, if there is one thing I remember from my time in Madison, it was how, first thing in the morning, after a long night on State Street, my friends and I used to love to roll out of bed and curl up with a nice, warm, broadsheet copy of the Wall Street Journal. My friends, there are graduates of this school who have won Nobel Prizes, Oscars, Super Bowls. J.J. Watt, he raised $40 million for needy people in Houston. Me? That's right, $40 million. And me? I ate 27 griddle cakes at Mickey's Dairy Bar this morning. It's true. I'm just some guy who writes about sports in a daily financial newspaper, which might be read by some of your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-great-grandparents, and occasionally uses that column to make fun of those deadbeats at the University of Michigan. It's true. I believe Wolverines are weasels. Technically, badgers are related to weasels too. But we are considerably cuter and smarter, and we win more football games. I actually thought for a moment that some people from Ann Arbor might show up here and protest my speech. I thought that would be really, really cool. And then I remembered Michigan never shows up in Wisconsin. It's true, it's true. You know, at the Wall Street Journal, I'm surrounded by Wolverines. I got Wolverines to my right, Wolverines to my left. I do my best to avoid them. But every once in a while, I'll run into them in the office, pushing very hard on a door that says pull. Anyway, enough about Michigan. Let's do a proper welcome like they told me in the instruction manual. Congratulations to you all, the University of Wisconsin-Madison class of 2019. Congratulations to you, to your parents, to your grandparents, to your great-grandparents, to your siblings, your kiddos if you got them, to your professors, your assistant professors, your TAs, your friends, your significant others, your exes, your enemies, your landlords, your baristas, your bartenders, your freshman year roommate who clipped their nails in the middle of the night, and also to the person who woke you up in your seat 30 seconds ago and said, "Look at the guy on stage with the funny hair." Congratulations on a mission well done. Today is a true life milestone for you and for me. And to think, if you had all just waited a little later to graduate, we could all be outside in the nice springtime weather. But I love it. You know, this feels like proper Wisconsin weather today. My children are with me here today. They're up there watching Toy Story 3 on an iPad. They'd never been to Wisconsin before, and yesterday we had a real, authentic Badger experience. I took my children outside. We were right by the lake. It was windy, and I showed them Lake Mendota, and the wind was blowing in their faces, and I said, "Well, kids, here it is, one of Daddy's favorite places on earth, Madison, Wisconsin." And they looked for 1.5 seconds, and then we sprinted as fast as we could into the nearest warm building. But I envy you. I miss this place. My time in Madison, like yours, was some of the most fun I've ever had in my life. You know, honestly, if I regret anything, it's graduating in 4 years. What was I thinking? I could have at least stretched it out to 6, maybe 7. If I hadn't finished that last term paper, I could still be here. Back when I was at Wisconsin, it was quite common for students to take a long time to graduate. But I heard something the other day from someone in the administration that was quite troubling. The average Wisconsin student now graduates in less than 4 years. Modern Badgers, I hate to say this, but you are doing it entirely wrong. What is your hurry? I say, stay in Madison as long as possible. Have you been out there in the real world? Have you seen what it's like out there? Do you watch the cable news? Life does not get better than this. It may get warmer, but it does not get any better. I went to school here in the 1990s, the early 1990s. These were simpler, primitive times. Back then, Wisconsin was a sovereign rural glacial moraine, occupied primarily by woodchucks and kids from the Chicago suburbs. There were only 2 buildings on campus: Humanities and State Street Brats. The rest of the city, cow pasture. I mean, students back then, we didn't have social media or smartphones. We didn't even have the internet. I actually have no idea how we spent all of our time. We communicated with each other through something called a telephone, a crude device, usually affixed to a wall, through which human beings talk to each other verbally without using emojis. We listened to Cypress Hill, A Tribe Called Quest, The Grateful Dead, and a new band named Nirvana. We wore a lot of terrible baggy clothes. We survived mostly on bratwurst and Babcock's ice cream. And we never, ever won any sporting events. It was like going to school at Northwestern. These were different times. My old college roommate is here today. We used to live around the corner on West Mifflin Street. And if you think it's bizarre to see me up here giving a commencement speech, imagine how he feels. I still owe him rent money. Somehow, we made it through, we survived. Made it to the end just like you today. What a fantastic class this is. So young, so motivated, so much smarter than me. There are Badgers today graduating from more than 24 different countries, faraway places like Australia, Kenya, Denmark, Stevens Point, Iraq, Venezuela, Eau Claire, Poland, Finland, Sheboygan, Ghana, Iceland, Appleton, Zimbabwe, Oshkosh, Uganda, the Syrian Arab Republic, Fond du Lac, Peru, Waukesha, Oman, and of course the proud, independent Arctic nation of Green Bay. My congratulations to all of you. You are Badgers for life. It is honestly the best thing to be. I mean, look at Chancellor Blank. She went to the University of Minnesota. And then she got another degree from a two-month online internet college called MIT. Then she worked at Princeton, which is another online internet college, and then Northwestern and Michigan. She basically spent her entire career behind enemy lines. But now, she's a Badger. She's a Badger for life. You know, Chancellor Blank, she recently went for her physical, and her doctor told her her bloodstream is now 70% cheese curds, which, as we all know, is quite healthy, and the statewide average. That's what Wisconsin does to you. And today is a special day. You're about to go out into this wide, wide world with only one firm obligation. And you know what it is. You can't move back into your parents' house. I mean, come on. Your parents, this college journey of yours began with big aspirations. Maybe you were the first person in your college to ever go to college. Maybe you'd become a neurosurgeon, or an astronaut, or a lawyer, or a movie director, or best of all, maybe you'd become a brand influencer or Instagram or TikTok. Now, all your parents want is for you to not move back into the house. Even if they say they want you to move back in the house, even if your mom says, it'd be kind of nice to have my baby back in the house again, your mom is lying. She does not really mean that. Mom and dad have moved on. They've taken your childhood bedroom and turned it into a lounge with a pool table, a trampoline, and a tiki bar. Okay, that's not true. I'll level up. Here's the truth. Your mom and dad are growing marijuana in your childhood bedroom. Come on, it's basically legal now. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's only going to get bigger. Just trust me, your parents don't want you back in the house. Still, it might happen. It might. I know this because I moved back into the house. Oh boy, was that fun. Graduating from college, where I had my own apartment, full autonomy over my life, coming home, waking up in the morning, going into the kitchen where I grew up, and being greeted by the death stares of my mom and dad. Dad would be there in his Oxford and khakis, ready for work. Mom would be halfway out the door to her job. And I'd be standing there, shirtless, in my Bucky Badger pajama bottoms, waiting for them to leave so I could go back to bed. Somehow, I got out of there, and you will too. And if I can impart one bit of wisdom as you go out into that great big world, it's this. Are you ready? This is the big reveal. Nobody out there really knows what they're doing. I know. This is not the kind of thing that somebody is supposed to admit in a college commencement speech. I'm supposed to be up here delivering sage life lessons and pearls of hard-earned insight. But I promise you, this is insight. This is quite sage. It really is a great secret of life that we're often, sadly, too embarrassed and too self-conscious to admit. Nobody out there has it all completely figured out. Everyone's scrambling in their own way every day. Don't believe those charlatans out there who are writing self-help books. There's a whole industry of know-it-alls. Nonsense. Ignore it. People who have their life, or people who claim that they have life all figured out, they have it figured out less than anyone. I mean, even your parents, I mean, they're battling too. You know, your parents, they seem so smart and so together. You know, they can pay for dinner and fold laundry. But trust me, they're making this up as they go along too. And this is good. This is truthful and honest. It is healthy and human. It's incredibly important to acknowledge our vulnerabilities, our frailties, and our imperfections, and all the times that we're struggling. There's zero shame in that, to struggle, to occasionally get it wrong. I mean, I'm a sports columnist. I get it wrong somewhere between 300 and 450 times a week. My life is constantly humbling. I was thinking about this as I sat down to write this speech 45 minutes ago at Helen C. White. And, 11 years ago to this day, I was laid off, like so many people were at the recession at the end of this decade. I was handed that sad cardboard box and told to pack up my stuff. It was barely a week before Christmas. And I remember going home to my tiny New York apartment, to my future wife, Bessie, who is also here today, also watching Toy Story 3 on an iPad. But back then, she was sitting there in our tiny New York apartment, and as tears began to well in my eyes, I said, "Honey, I don't know how, but exactly 11 years from now, I'm going to give the winter commencement address to the class of 2019 at the University of Wisconsin-Madison." Also, honey, I don't know how I know this, but Donald Trump will be president, and there will be a TV show with a baby Yoda. I didn't say any of those things. I don't remember what I said, but I remember how I felt. I remember thinking, this is really humbling, but it's also strangely exciting. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to relive any of that again. And I think it's important as you go out there to do the homework, to prepare, to take the serious stuff seriously. But I always think that at all times it's useful to carry a little humility with you, to recognize that we are not always fully in control of our own stories, how often it's moments of chaos and luck and strange bends of the universe that conspire to teach us and push us and challenge us and bring us to thrilling events like this ceremony today. A quick story. Not long ago, a minister in California named Lydia Sohn interviewed a bunch of people between the ages of 90 and 96. These were really old people. These people remembered the first time the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. And she interviewed them about happiness. And there's a belief that human happiness happens on a curve. People are said to be happiness when they're very, very young and don't have a care in the world, like my kids up there who are now watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the iPad. And then, on the other side of the curve, people are supposedly happiest again when they are later in life, when they are older, retired, and liberated to enjoy the little things, like spending their grandchildren's college fund on a condo in Fort Lauderdale. And in the middle of the curve, which is the part that I'm in, and the part that you're about to go into, this is supposedly the hard part, the tough part. This is when people go out into the world, they get jobs, have kids, there are crises, relationships happen, relationships fall apart. Perfectly good adults start walking around in public in sweatpants. This should be the hardest part, the unhappy part. It makes sense, doesn't it? But these 90 to 96-year-olds, they told Reverend Sohn, they told her something different. They said they were happiest in the harsh middle part, when their lives were the craziest and messiest, when all their kids were still in the house and tracking mud through the living room and setting small fires in the backyard. They were happiness when they were trying to balance all of it, work and family, and figuring out how to pay for things. These people, they were approaching 100 years old, and they told her they were happiest when their lives were the most chaotic. I think that's remarkable wisdom. My friends, you're about to step out into this beautiful chaos. You're probably going to have a job or 2 or 12 that you don't really like. You're going to have good bosses and bad bosses and many, many mediocre bosses. You're going to worry about money. You're going to freak out about where you should live. You're going to get your heart broken a few times, both professionally and personally. And I hate to say it, but at least one night a year, you will sit in your bedroom and eat an entire cheese pizza all by yourself. Maybe that was last night. But please, as you go out there, remember this: nobody is a life expert. Nobody has it all figured out. Everyone is making this up as they go along, at least partly. So embrace that uncertainty and chaos. Be kind and civil to your fellow human beings, even on the internet. Call your mom and dad on the phone every now and again. Text messages don't count. And do me a favor, read a newspaper. Newspapers are still really good for you, just like cheese curds. My sincere congratulations to every single one of you. You have my gratitude and my awestruck admiration. Promise me that when you walk out these doors into that wonderful, life-affirming Wisconsin cold, you'll change the world. And then you'll sprint back into the nearest building and warm yourselves up back again. Thank you.